Hey everyone, this is another session of the PMP study group revision. Right, when I say revision, I think over the first few sessions you probably will see that it's not really like I go through the same course material to explain everything to you again, but through some of these pointers and through some of this sharing of the additional information, hoping that to maybe prepare you better and in getting probably like helping you to build out the momentum and go a little bit deeper in understanding the specific topic, right? Sorry, my throat is still not recovered yet. So time to time, I may still need to hydrate myself. Okay. So hope everything is well. Okay. Will not lose my voice. Sorry, even for that. This 1 hour or so. So let's look at the topic that we're going through for today is risk management. I will recap some of these key things that we have learned in the class in terms of the risk management processes and also some of the terminologies that we need to know. And yeah, of course, I would want to spend more time actually today to go through some of the sample question with you. Okay, so this is kind of like maybe to consolidate or to enforce some of the understanding, right? But first, let's look at this exam content outline to risk management. As you know, in the class, I don't really go through this the exam syllabus too much because I always emphasize on understanding, okay, on the process group part. And if you're able to understand on the process group that specific knowledge area, you help you to be a more complete picture about what are the things you need to know on that specific topic. Okay, but for this case, I will going into a little bit more about understanding on the exam syllabus in terms of what are the key, hopefully like direct our thinking more towards what the PMP exam question may test us on specific topic. Okay, so in the class I emphasize more on about the knowledge. Okay, but now I just want you to set yourself knowing this knowledge, how what are the key areas, okay, you probably need to look at to help us to answer the question. Right? So let's look at this. Sorry, there are two domains in the exam syllabus that relate to risk management. So one is in the domain 1 in people, and the other one is a process domain. Okay, so they are all together the three tasks related to this two different domains that relate to the risk management. So in the people domain, they said this is task 7. Address and remove impediment, remove the obstacle, remove the blockers for the team. So it is very much looking at what can we do to help the team to solve certain problem related to the uncertainty, right? Let me just check. Sorry, let me just check a little bit on. Make sure everyone that you muted. Okay. So let's look at very quickly on the enablers on this. So task 7, okay, is helping the team to remove all these obstacles, including, okay, not just about issue, including things of dealing with the uncertainty, okay, like the related to the risk. So determine the critical impediment, I determine what's a critical obstacle, and prioritize this impediment or obstacle. Now, these two are related to this is sometimes in exam, exam question, you may see there's a few, they like to give you a scenario, and then in that scenario, they could have a different problems. Okay, so you need to identify where is the main problem, right? Identify the critical problem, right? Impediment or obstacle, right? And also, having said that, probably there are 4 problems, okay, occur in the question, and then you need to prioritize, okay, where is a critical, okay, the most important thing you need to solve. So really, I always emphasize understanding the question is very important because not just the knowledge. You most of the time from what I see is that the exam candidate found it quite difficult to really like they didn't really understand the question well and hence they choose the wrong answer. So we do not there isn't any one fixed answer like in this condition this is what you do, because if the condition change a little bit and giving us a different context, and that answer could be quite different. Okay, so understand the analyze the question, understand what is a critical impediment, okay, and then you prioritize them. So that is the first one probably you need to solve, right? So again, it depends on the question asking, right? So use a network to implement solution to remove impediments. So what does it mean? What network? This network meaning the people network, okay? So using the people network because it's under the people domain, is more about if there's a stakeholder causing some problem, or is a team causing some problem, if the contractor has some problem, okay, in a project. So what can we do about this? So sometimes it's not just dealing with the getting the direct team to help us to solve, but it may use the network, okay? It may use the influence of other stakeholders trying to get things done as well, okay? So this is what we mean by using the network. Reassess continually to make sure that these are obstacles are being addressed, okay? So mainly this just to make sure there's a common understanding, okay? That it is not just we cannot just say this is what we'll do, but we want to make sure that all the stakeholders understand, okay, why we need to do this. Right, so that's on the people side. But then there's this specific on the process. There are two things here. One is actually task number 3 is specifically dealing with how we manage risk itself. And then task number 15 is about manage the project issue. Now, there's a difference between project risk and project issue. Okay, it's very important to let you know. A risk is about uncertainty. Okay, so meaning that it's not something that 100% will happen, right? And this is uncertainties, right? That's about risk, and I'm going to go through the proper process later, right? And in terms of this uncertainty, there's something that we would have identified. We call the known risk, a known risk that we're able to identify. And then there's another one that we may not know, right? Unknown risk. There's no way that we're able to identify this risk until it happened, okay? So there's unknown risk, right? So for the known risk, we will have a series of the processes, like how you identify, how you quantify, how you analyze them, and also how do you um, keep on monitor for this unknown risk. Okay, then about unknown risk. So that's just the thing. Unknown risk is actually we do not know until it happened, and when it happened, it become an issue, right? So that is how we manage project issue. Project issue meaning how we deal with unknown risk. So recognize when a risk that become an issue. So there's when an unknown risk happen, okay, and that become an issue. So if it's unknown risk, if it happen, right, if it just boom, okay, right, it happens, it is not a risk anymore. Okay, if it happens, it is not risk, it become an issue. When the issue happen, and what do you do? Firefighting all the time. Okay, so that's what will happen in our project, okay, all the time. Okay, if you don't do a proper risk management, okay, we are firefighting. So that is actually we're dealing with the issue. So attack the issue with the optimal action to achieve the project success. Okay, so mainly how we're dealing with the issue is basically just look at what is the best thing and the most effective thing that we're able to solve the problem. Okay. So collaborate with the relevant stakeholder and approach to resolve. So again, just like in the earlier, the people domain, we try to make use of the network and try to deal with the using the influence or the influence or ability or the power of the stakeholder helping us to solve this issue, right? Okay, so these are the getting the context correct, and then you go into, understand the syllabus is one thing. It's quite easy to look at. Oh, okay, so there's a syllabus, but what the underlying knowledge and the process, that's the one that we need to spend a little bit more time to study, right? Excuse me. Now, for this diagram, in fact, all the classes I've gone through, I've drawn almost, I think, about 95% similar type of of diagram. Okay, if not, I would say almost close to 100%. But just at this, So this diagram was in the recent class, like a couple of months ago. Okay, when we were using the electronic whiteboard, and I can kind of export it, and then it become quite good to share. Okay, so anyway, I will not go through this how to draw this again, but I hope to just briefly go through with you. Let me just use my pointer. Okay, the laser pointer. I can see. Okay, so let me just use a laser pointer then to guide you through the process. Okay, very quickly, right? If I were to redo this all over again, it will take another maybe 45 minutes, close to 1 hour. Okay, so let's quickly go through this. Now, for us to understand this risk management process, right? Remember the PICRIM, PRQQRIM, PIQ, and there are two Q, okay, QQRIM. Right? These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 processes in for risk management across that planning, executing, and then monitoring and control process, right? Now, when do you start doing the risk? Is when you are done with all the knowledge area, right? Scope, schedule, cost, quality, okay, and so on. Okay, and you know you follow the process as what stated, what you have seen in the Rita's process chart, right? So follow the 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 sequence of planning, and then you follow the sequence of planning, and you try to break this different cuts in the planning that you have, and then you know that the last knowledge area that we cover is actually in risk. Okay, so we're done with all the 8 other knowledge area, and then number 9 is risk. Okay, and then you combine all of them together as integration management. Okay, so plan. Okay, so how do you in plan risk management is mainly about who involved. So these are the people that you can see. Okay, basically anyone who able to contribute, it should be there, right? And this plan risk management is for us to come up with a risk management plan, right? And remember, input to almost all the process is you got the EEF and you got the OPA over here, right? And with this tool, I got some example, right? And then we are done with my risk plan, and then I go to the first um, plan process, which is to identify. So identify is for us to write down cost, risk, and effect. That basically this identify is just to come up with a list. Okay, you can see here it's a list. So with this list, mainly we are using the data gathering tool that helping us to list down anything, okay, that we're able to identify contribute by this group of people. Okay, consider EF and OPA, right? So remember, okay, in the risk management plan, we follow telling us how do you do the identify. Okay, so basically what we have is basically a list. Okay, now this list is too long, and we need to go through some kind of a quick analysis to go to the Q and Q. So the first Q, these two Q are the analysis. So the first Q is all about a very subjective but then very quick assessment. Yeah, we're using this probability and impact matrix. Okay, so this PI matrix, probability and impact matrix, is a quick way to do the analysis. Basically, we are putting all the risks and then doing our quick assessment, and the result here is we got some kind of all populated all over, and then we need to draw a line. So this line here, anything above is a red one, anything below is a green one. Okay, so what's the purpose of doing this? You can see that we are actually do some kind of re-ranking over here, right? So this re-ranking is helping us to look at, okay, so now this whole list is being separated into the two. So one you call the short list, and then the other one is a watch list, right? So you got a short list and a watch list. So that's what we have, right? And the key thing about this segregation, so that we're able to bring forward, okay, those in the short list to do the further analysis. Okay, we try to prioritize even on the short list to have some kind of ranking and to have some kind of more detail of like a numerical assessment. Okay, so that's why you see here, right? In the quantitative analysis is more about the numerical assessment. So some numbers to help us to justify and helping us to do some kind of that like a reserve planning. Okay, so this numerical assessment, there are many different tools. right? But basically, is there anything helping us to come up with some kind of a numbers to justify? Okay, so example, EMV, right? I hope you remember expected monetary value, right? Um, yeah, this is a EMV. Okay, I go to that later. Okay, so expected monetary value, and then a decision tree is helping us to based on the EMV, a tree structure and how to what decision to take, right? And the Monte Carlo analysis is a computer simulation that the result will tell us about the chance to meet a certain target, either the target cost or the target schedule, right? So remember that. Yeah, in the class, I've asked you to highlight this in the book. So there's a Monte Carlo analysis. Okay, it's helping us to basically it's some kind of a computer simulation. Okay, to determine the chance to meet the target, right? So this is what the quantitative analysis is all about. And we can also use a probability and impact matrix again, but this time the difference from the earlier qualitative is that we are using a more objective measurement in terms of the score for the probability and also for the impact, and then we do some kind of further prioritization, okay, on the matrix again, right? So long story short is that we got this a prioritized list, okay, and what happened to the watch list? It just stay there, okay, the green one, you stay there, you will keep on monitoring later, right? So with this this analysis is that we will go into the next stage we call the response. This response planning dealing with um, mainly is about when we know this uncertainty and then is there a strategy to deal with this uncertainty. So we want to plan for our risk responses. So for the threat, here, we want to avoid, we want to transfer, or we try to mitigate or accept. Okay, basically a threat is like no good. Okay, and then we want to eliminate as much as possible. If cannot, we try to minimize okay the impact, that kind of a cushion the effect of these threats. Okay, so this negative risk no good. But then on the other hand, the positive risk is something we want it to happen. Is there a way to make it even enhance the kind of uh, either the impact or the opportunity? Okay? So you try to make it happen as much as possible for opportunity. So these are the risk response strategy, right? Then in the response plan, this is what we have: reserve. And then you know that the risk, just now we mentioned there's a known risk, there's unknown risk. So for the reserve, we would have two different type of a reserve. So the C means a contingency reserve, and then this M means that it's a management reserve. Okay, and then in the list, you would have what's clearly defined what's a risk event. So where's a risk event? You already define upfront, right? From the list, this is the risk event, right? Cost, risk, effect. So we have already listed it in this list here. And this list, by the way, is something you call risk register, right? Started from identify, we further rank them into the qualitative, and then we will quantify it, and then we add more of this information on the risk response. And these are all still under the risk register. Okay, so you can see that stretch over all the way up to monitor and control. So risk event. And then we got some terminology you need to know about trigger, and you need to know about response owner, right? And the contingency plan, secondary risk, residual risk, and also the fallback plan. So what are these actually? Right? These are the terminology we cover in the class. Remember the helicopter story? Okay, I go through in a while later very quickly to kind of like maybe help you to refresh. Okay, that you can remember the helicopter story. They cover all these different terms here. Right. So with this done, we would go back to replan again, okay, because the reserve, when it's added, you may have some additional cost, or you may have some changes to the schedule, right? And because of the response plan, we may have changes to the resource as well. You may want to buy insurance. They're dealing with the procurement. So what you can see is that this risk planning towards the end is actually trigger some activity that we need to do to replan, okay, the whole of our project plan earlier on that cover the scope all the way into procurement, right? So this is a go back iteration to get us to replan and then go through this process. And you can see the red line, we just follow this red line, okay, going through the loop. And when do you stop the loop? when we're happy with the plan, we think the plan is realistic and a kind of stable plan, and everyone get agreement to it, and then we can actually get this plan for approval. Okay, and that become the baseline, and that become the approved plan, right? So this is an iteration of planning. Risk is the last one that trigger. Okay, all the other replan activities, right? So mainly this cover the process in planning, and then you go into execute and monitor control. Okay, let's look at the monitor control first, because when the plan has been approved, when the project started, uh, we will not implement response. Okay, we need to monitor the risk response. So which is why I look at this monitor first. Right? So when monitoring, meaning that what do you look at? We're looking at the risk register, right? So this risk register is here. This register is the one that we identified earlier, the red color, which is a short and a prioritized list, and then the green color, which is a watch list. But the risk doesn't stay there forever, right? Remember that the more that we get into the project, the more we're able to uncover, and then mainly the progressive elaboration nature of the project, helping us to know more and more into the project, and helping us to identify more and more risks we're able to uh, list down, right? So this list itself is not always static, it's very dynamic. So there could be the additional risk. You can see the plus sign here, additional risks that or new risks we're able to uncover, okay? And what happened when the project going on? We have identified additional risk, right? When you identify risk, remember the process. If you identify the risk, you document it, and then after that you do the Q and Q analysis, right? So the first Q, does it qualify into the red color? If red color, then you go into the quantify it, okay? And then if it's so severe that we need to go through a response, okay? And then you look at, does this severe risk will make us need to replan and re-baseline the project. Okay, if yes, you need to baseline your schedule, cost, or maybe your scope, and that will incur an additional approval, okay, by the sponsor, right? So this thing going on and on. So which is why when we are doing the monitoring, sometimes we actually still need to do some aspect of planning because of risk, right? And also those on the red section of the risk may be downgraded, and then those in the watch list, green color, may be upgraded as well. So this is ongoing. We're trying to look at something we call the risk reassessment. Okay, we reassess the risk, and then we may want to audit our risk register. Okay, and along the way, because of more and more new risks identified, do you have enough reserve, right, in my overall project budget? So this reserve analysis is there to look at, because of the new risk, additional red color one has been added, we may not have enough money, and then that will incur additional changes to my cost baseline, okay, or maybe overall cost budget. Okay, so this is what happened in the monitor risk. And as we are trying to look at this identified one, then what happened to the unknown risk? Right? Maybe one day it happened, right? And you see this unknown risk, when it happened, it become an event. So how do you deal with an event? You are using the management reserve. There's something you call the workaround, and this workaround will be dealing with the event itself. Okay, so workaround is something like firefighting that deal with an event. Event is like a fire. Okay, and what happened for those that we're able to identify? We're able to trigger certain risk response. So we're using the contingency plan to deal with whatever response that we have to deal with the known risk, right? So this is what it is, the implement risk response. Okay, so very quickly, this is what I have explained in the class about the risk management process. And for you to go into more detail of the understanding, you can refer to Rita's book. This is in the Rita's book, page 315 to 316. That gives you a more detail of what I explained earlier here. Now, or you can go into you remember this copy of the handout workbook 1, and this is in page 22 and 23. Here, 22 and page 23, right? You can see here. Now, basically, this section is the same as in a Rita's book. Okay, I think you can just read up. Now, this part here, okay, is about what we do in the individual risk management process. And then the other page here, this part here, these are mainly the so-called like the output, okay, of the individual risk management process. You can see here output, okay. This is the output, and this is about the action. Okay, so this is more about the detail of what I explained using the flip chart, okay, or the whiteboard drawing, okay, in the class. Here, like you see here, right? And knowing this is quite important because it's helping us to kind of a structure, okay, somewhat overlapping kind of nature, okay, of risk management. And risk management also, it touches a lot of other knowledge area, okay. So it's helping us to have a probably a little more like a structured understanding, okay, on all the aspect, okay, on risk management. And then in the class, I also mentioned about the EMV, right, expected monetary value. And remember, I said that EMV actually is it's very easy to do that calculation. It's mainly about your probability multiplied by the impact, right? So these are example I use. I think it's almost the same example I use in every class. Okay, right? And EMV is actually related to reserve. And you know that this, let's look at this reserve. Okay, there's a known risk, there's unknown risk. Where known risk is what we can document it. We got the list. Unknown risk we will never know until it happen. So the relationship between the EMV and also the reserve is that we can say that we're using this EMV, okay, to kind of formulate for my reserve. So it's important to know the plus and minus sign of this. Okay, and I have put down here on which page number here, and oh, I don't have it here, but anyway, you should have highlighted in your Rita's book as well. Okay, so remember that for EMV, you just think about expected monetary value, expected value. So meaning that if anything dealing with the cost overrun, okay, anything within the losing, okay, the money, right, spending more, meaning your money is out. So money out meaning is a negative, right? And opportunity meaning that there's a chance for us to save costs. Okay, so cost saving, money you keep the money or the money is flowing in, so it's positive. Okay, in that case, right? So for EMV, you think about like a cash flow, either cash out or cash in. Okay, that's for the threat and opportunity. And then when coming to reserve, is something bad happened that we may need to make sure that we got enough this fund into the special account called the reserve. Okay, so if it's dealing with the threat, we need to make sure we got positive reserve, we got enough saving. Okay, we got positive reserve to deal with the potential flow of the cash. Okay, so the plus and minus sign is actually opposite to one another between the EMV and the reserve. Okay, so same thing for that opportunity, right? Any question so far? Now I've forgotten to open one thing. Let me just, where's my slide? Oh, okay. Now this workbook, page 21, workbook, yeah, page 21. The risk management terminology. This is what I have gone through in the class. I hope that you did follow. And these are probably is a good time for you to just re-look at this risk terminology to make sure you understand, okay, this terminology. In case you have not, let me show you the answer. And I am going to open the Miro. Okay. Okay, just hold on. I need to open up this. Uh, so let me just temporarily pause my recording. Now up to this point, any question from you? Okay, there's a question. Okay, good. Let me just hold on. Let me just stop. So I can't stop. I can't pause the recording. It's fine. Let me just answer this. There's a question about EMV is calculated by yearly or overall project timeline. It's by overall project timeline. Okay, that's a quick answer to you. That is actually there's a very quick answer. Okay, some company will have a different practice. Okay, but for the in the context of that exam is actually on the whole project itself. Okay, so we don't go by anything like yearly and so on. Okay, so that's a good question. Okay, that's a very practical question. Okay, frankly, right now, let me just show you the answer because I got problem getting in. If you have the access to the book, it'll be good. You can look at the book as well. But let me just open up. Okay. Okay, while we are waiting for this, maybe you like to maybe you like to play this game for a while. Okay. Now, mainly this is about understanding about the response strategy. You can take this. Basically, the game here is that the shark coming. Okay, and then what you need to do is that you need to click on the risk response strategy for opportunity, right? So you look at the shark coming. If it's an opportunity, you will click on the shark. Okay, if it's not for opportunity, you don't click, right? And to see how many you can get. Your target is to get 6 sharks diverted, right? So for time being, can you play the game for a while? Let me just sorry open up that show you the answer for that. Okay, now let me show you the answer. Uh, okay, I will. So you have time, enjoy the game. Anyway, there's supposed to be uh, something for you to play around after this revision. Okay, so let's look at this. Yes, I finally get it here. The different terms here, anyway, I'm going to share this with you, okay, later. But I just want to highlight one thing. Which is this appetite threshold. Okay, I think this number 9 here. Anyway, let's look at this. Okay, threat. So what is a threat? Threat is the risk, okay, with a negative effect, right? So that's the threat. And then let me just pick another one here, which is opportunity is something of possible occurrence with a positive effect. This one you will know, okay? And then what is the uncertainty? Uncertainty mainly is some kind of things that cannot predict, right? So there's uncertainty, okay, which is here, right? And then risk management plan, you should know what is this, okay? Part of the project management plan, that's a risk management plan, okay? It's part of a PM plan. And then the next one, risk factor, okay, is situation, okay, attributes or action or something that will impact the scope, okay? And then the risk appetite, number 6, is actually amount of uncertainty. Okay, so risk appetite is amount of uncertainty here. There's a difference between, sorry, not this. There's a difference between the, just get this right, okay? Risk appetite is 6 here. Sorry, let me just, oh dear, wasted some time in doing this. Okay, this one, number 6, okay? This one, okay, is the amount of uncertainty willing to accept. Okay, there's a difference between the risk appetite and the risk threshold. Okay, so appetite is meaning how much that we are willing to take, to undertake a certain uncertainty. And this threshold is the value of measurement. Okay, some kind of a variable that when you reach certain measurement, and then we need to have trigger some action. Okay, so there's a difference because sometimes I think some of the candidates are kind of like confused between this risk appetite and risk threshold. Okay, so appetite is the willingness of us to undertake certain risks. Okay, but the threshold is some kind of dealing with the response. If I refer to the example I used in the class, if about the rainfall, remember the helicopter story, okay? If the rain of more than certain measurement, and then we need to call a helicopter come. Helicopter is a contingency plan, and then that rainfall of certain measurement, that actually is a threshold, okay? That's a trigger. Sorry, that's a threshold, okay? For us, right? So the trigger is trigger here is the event or the condition that causes a risk to happen. Okay, so that is a trigger. So you're referring to the helicopter story, is that when you reach certain measurement, we need to take some action. So just think about the helicopter story. Um, helicopter story is that the rainfall and the flood is a risk, but flood flood is the risk, but then the certain rain or more the rain of more than um, certain measurement in a short period of time, there is indication that the flood will occur, right? So there's a trigger, the flood will occur. So when the flood occur, if we if we conduct our action to respond, it may be a bit too late. Okay, so what we need to have is that we need to have some kind of a threshold. Okay, so this threshold, when it happen, we would where is it? Threshold, when it happen, we will require action to be taken. Okay, so meaning that before the flood comes, I need to know when to call the helicopter. Okay, so the helicopter will, this is to call helicopter, right? To call helicopter. And then before it trigger, I need to call the helicopter when it hits a certain threshold. So this helicopter come, remember the story about what is helicopter? Helicopter is our contingency plan, right? And who call helicopter is a response owner. Remember the guy called Sam, right? So this guy, Sam is the one that called helicopter. So helicopter is a contingency plan and Sam is a risk response owner. And when you look at what Sam is doing, Sam is trying to do the sign, okay, to stop helicopter getting too close. So why is it for? What is the purpose? Because the helicopter may crash. Remember the helicopter crash, right? And when it crash, when helicopter crash, is that become a secondary risk, okay? And so that didn't happen, okay? Thank goodness. So the rain stopped, and then helicopter go back. So what happened when the sun come out? Helicopter left. We realize, right, there's still a little bit of mud, okay, at the workplace, okay, at the construction site. So what this mud is all about? This mud is the helicopter contingency plan is not, it couldn't totally cover the risk. Okay, so like some kind of a spillover effect, okay, of the risk because of the ineffectiveness of the contingency plan, and that's called the residual risk. Right? Remember, mud is a residual risk, right? And you know that the other time I show you, right, how to deal with this mud. You got to have a big piece of a sponge, right? And then you put this sponge, and that become the fallback plan because sponge soak up all the water, okay, soak up the mud, right? So so now you remember that you, if you see helicopter on the sky, that it must be a contingency plan, okay? And then you think that someone called, that must be Sam, right? And helicopter just need to watch out, you know, it may crash, and then that create another risk. That's called a secondary risk, right? And then you see the mud, okay, after rain, you think about residual risk, okay? When you go back, you wash your dishes after dinner, remember the sponge that was looking at your hand, right? You think that's probably is a fallback plan, right? So these are all the things I hope that will trigger, okay, your memory, okay? So remember the helicopter story, okay? Try to relate this thing, right? And then the story continue, if there's a fire that burn our office. So what happened? If fire burn our office, the PM, you got no more money, right? You look at your pocket, the money, no more. Okay, and this guy said that I need 5,000. So who should we get? You cannot get from Sam, right? Sam got a pocket of 5,000, but cannot get from Sam because there's a contingency reserve because this fire is an unknown risk. So we must get from ask the sponsor for the management reserve because that management reserve is meant for things at unknown risk to deal with the issue, right? So this is very much a quick recap of what you've gone through in the class, okay, about that helicopter story, right? So these terms, remember, okay, appetite, threshold, and the triggers, and then the risk averse. I think in your book is I think in the book maybe is something quite different. I can't remember which one, but I think it's not risk averse. Okay, I think it's called risk avoidance or something. Okay, in this book, right? So it's not risk avoidance. I think you should change it. It's risk averse. Okay, so why this risk averse? Risk averse is um here, right? It's a response strategy. Not response, eliminate a response strategy that. Oh, sorry. My bad. Okay, not risk averse. Risk avoidance. Yes, I think I did it wrong here. So risk avoidance. Risk avoidance is a response strategy that take action to eliminate the risk. Okay. So there's a risk avoidance. Risk averse is a different thing. Okay. This is risk. I think in your book, is actually printed as a risk averse, but it should be risk avoidance. Okay, risk avoidance is a response strategy. They'll take action to eliminate, okay, the risk. Okay, risk averse is a different thing. Risk averse meaning that we is a attitude of the is a risk um, attitude of the stakeholder. They are quite conservative. They do not want to take risk. Okay, so that's called the risk averse. Okay, they try to avoid taking risk. Okay, it's more like a risk appetite of the stakeholder. That's called risk averse. Okay, and secondary risk, you know, there is a helicopter crash, right? So this, right, risk arises when you implement response. And then spike. Okay, this is a term that we use in your agile. Okay, is a short iteration to explore the issue. It's a short iteration. Normally, we will maybe introduce before the release. Okay, is to cover for things like troubleshooting, cover for risk, and so on. Right. So these are the key definition. Sorry, let me just go to this. All right. So remember the helicopter story, and then you kind of complete our key concept on this um, various topics on the risk management. Okay. Yeah, if you're having fun with this, you can take a photo of this. Anyway, I'm going to share with you the slide. Okay. Uh, after the session ended, I want to go through a few sample questions with you. But before that, before I move on, do you have any question to ask me? No? Good. So let's look at some sample question together. Okay. I think I may close the wrong window because everything I've set up, I open up, but now I need to reopen again. Let me share out the sample question together. Um, sorry. Okay. Before that, I think I will stop recording now because of the copyright issue on the okay on the fast track question. I cannot just share like that. Okay, so I got to stop recording. Sorry for those who can't join it today. But you can just contact me separately if you need to know anything about the risk. Okay, but I got to stop recording. Okay, but those of you who actually I will list down the question that I've shared out in the slide. Not this, I list out the question ID, okay, in the site, so that if you want, you can just go and look at this question ID in your fast track, and then you try to analyze it. Okay, but for me, I just quickly show in the session now, but I will not share it in a recording. Okay, so thanks.